But then isn't that on the company's house anyway?
Chair, it is 1 minute past 2. I'd like to start the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Linda. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome and thank you for attending Schools Forum. Before we move on to the first two agenda items, can we just do a little bit of housekeeping? Can I just please remind you if you could stay on mute, and then we're not going to get interference. And then just to make it as efficient as possible, if you want to contribute, could you just raise your hands, and then it won't confuse me. I can assure you I'm very easily confused. And at that point, I will apologise if I do miss you. I'll try my best not to. But whether I wear my glasses or not, sometimes I can't see hands that are up. So I'm heavily reliant on Tim here, whose eyesight's probably as bad as mine. But we'll do our best between us. Mandy, can we start with item 1, please? Could you just give us an update on membership? Thank you.
Yes, Chair, we have 2 new members joining the forum this time. We have Steve Swatton from the maintained primary sector and Richard Sutton from the primary academies. They've both been elected to serve until May 2025.
Thank you, Mandy. So welcome, Steve, and welcome, Richard. Mandy, could you go through apologies as well, please?
We've received a number of apologies. One from Kerry Mitchell, who has a medical appointment. Jenny Wesley, who has a staff shortage, so needs to stay at work. Caroline Trowbridge, who has a work commitment but has sent a substitute, Mr. Lycett. Jane Rutherford, who has a work commitment. Tim Prince, who isn't very well today, so isn't able to join the meeting. Sarah Clark, who has a work commitment. And Jonathan Price, who has another work commitment.
Thank you, Mandy.
Sorry, Chair, does the forum accept those apologies and the reasons for them?
Is there anybody who doesn't? If you don't accept those apologies, would you just like to raise your hand, please? Okay, Mandy, they've been accepted. Thank you. Before we move on to item 3, can I just remind members that this meeting has been webcasted. Tim's asked me to do that, so I have. So moving on to item 3, declarations of interest. Have we, from the floor, got any declarations of interest? Steve?
Yes, I need to declare interest in item 9, delegation. I would say if there isn't usually, but if there is any discussion around that, I would ask for permission to join in that discussion, which has been allowed before.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Mandy, is that an issue? Is that okay?
As long as the forum accepts that, yes, that's fine.
Okay, so shall we cover that off now? Is there anybody who objects to just...
Richard, it's Judy here. I need to offer the same declaration of interest as Steve has just done.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Is there any objections from any of the members of the group that Steve and Judy make a contribution at that particular item? No, so you're okay, Steve and Judy, to make a contribution. Thank you, everybody.
If necessary.
If necessary. Okay, item 5, decisions taken by the chairman under delegated powers. I wrote a letter to the new Secretary of State and to one of his officers, Robin Walker, a few weeks ago. I'm not going to take all of the credit for that. Steve Barr suggested that was done at one of the recovery meetings. Whilst Mr. Williamson was in post. So by accident, the timing of the letter was quite good, and I can assure you it was only by accident. I was a little bit late getting it done. I have heard nothing from either the Secretary of State or Robin Walker, but I have heard something from Philip Siddle. So thank you for that, Philip, for getting back to me. And Philip and myself have had a conversation around making sure that early years is represented in that letter. And again, by accident, the timing of that was great, Philip, because obviously, as I haven't heard nothing from the Secretary of State, I'll be resubmitting that letter possibly in a week's time. And what we can do, Philip, is put a paragraph in representing early years. So if myself and you can get our heads together and paraphrase the information that you sent across to me, I think that would be a really good idea. If there's anybody else who has read the letter and wants to make any additional comments, then please do email me. I've tried to keep it as succinct as possible. Like yourselves, if you receive a 12-page letter, you're more likely to read a 2-page letter than a 12-page letter. So I have tried to be really succinct and concise in what I've said. But I would appreciate if anybody else has got any additional information that they would like me to convey to the Secretary of State, then please do email me and I'll do my best to make sure that fits into the letter. Is the hand up, Tim?
Yeah, it's both Mandy and Steve.
Okay, Mandy, you got your hand up.
Sorry, I was on mute. Mine was just going to ask you to go back to the minutes. So if you want to take Steve and finish this debate first and then go back and...
You spotted a deliberate mistake, Mandy, sorry. Yeah, we will do that. Steve?
No, I was going to ask the same question if we were actually going to go back to item 4.
Yeah, thank you.
Because you'd be disappointed if I didn't have some matters arising to raise.
On the contrary, Steve, on the contrary. So, having spotted a deliberate mistake, minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of July, is everybody in agreement with those minutes, or has anybody got any matters arising? The post is absolutely awful. So, and I've only got one screen and I haven't had my hard copy, hasn't arrived yet. So I'm juggling between screens. So I apologise, I didn't put my hand up, but I have got a couple of matters arising, if I may. Yeah, Steve, sorry, you've got the floor.
Sorry, I need to go back to the minutes. On page 4, well, depending on which number you're looking at, page 2 or page 4, is the big number at the bottom, I think, page 4. Minute 36, the third bullet point. There's a reference there to the consultation on national spending formula, and it was requested this be publicised to schools and governors through the school bag with a summary if possible. If I could just hang a request on that particular minute, I just wonder if the local authority could do something similar about the consultation which is currently open on what is effectively going to be, or likely to be, if it goes through, the abolition of the school improvement grant, and that consultation is currently open till November 26th, I think. And if you Google it, if you just Google school improvement grant consultation 2021, it'll come up. but it's a request that, as we requested at the last meeting with a different consultation, if the local authority could put something in the school bag to highlight it and give some guidance.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. We're going to be picked up in any other business, Steve. So Tim will pick that up in any other business.
That's fine. It's just that any other business wasn't on the agenda, which is why I thought I'd bring it up there.
Okay.
Couple of minute 39. The final main paragraph there. To reduce administrative burdens, it was asked if schools are not asked to submit financial self-declarations. It was asked if this would continue post-COVID. The forum was informed that this would be a decision for the forum at a future meeting. Now, I just wonder if that could be added clearly without specifying which meeting it's going to be, but if that could be noted on the work programme so we don't lose sight of it altogether.
Yeah, seems a good idea, Steve.
And then the final one, only 3 this time, on page 7, near the top of page 7, towards the end of minute 41, the chair reported that notes of the forum's working group would be emailed out to members in due course. And he also asked that for a report for the next meeting, updating members on the working group's progress and the educational banding tool. The EBT is clearly on the agenda. It's in the minutes that action on emailing the notes out has been completed. It's probably my inefficiency, but I can't find it. I don't remember it, so that might be my fault. But are we going to have a report updating us on the working group's progress?
Have you sent that out, Tim?
So we sent the notes out. So the notes went out, but the working group hasn't met, has it? Since then?
No. Yeah. So the minutes went out, Steve. Sorry to repeat myself, but we haven't had a further meeting of that working group since the last one. So we need to make sure that we do. Okay.
So that will be minuted for today then. So again, it doesn't get lost. Can anyone remember? Sorry, I mean, not taking up time. Anyone remember who emailed out those notes? Doesn't matter. Never mind. I couldn't find them anywhere in my email, but never mind. Carry on. I'll shut down.
I think the minutes went out. The notes went out with the agenda about a week ago. So you should be able to find them. I think they came from me, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely, thank you.
You move on. There's quite a big echo, and I think it's because Tim, your microphone is on when other people are talking, and it's creating quite an echo for the rest of us. I'm sorry if you wouldn't mind turning it off when you or the chair aren't talking.
You can always rely on one person, Mandy. Okay, thank you.
Another hand up we've got. Julie's hand up.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Steve. Julie?
Yeah, I've been asked to raise this from another school. So it's relating to item 40 on the minutes last time. It's a matter arising, and it's a request from Sir Graham Balfour for the local authority to review their PFI contribution to help them establish their carry forward. They're the only school, I believe, in the local authority who have both had to repay their SERA payment and they've got a PFI. So could someone from the finance department review the calculation of their PFI, please? Is that okay?
You were stuck on mute. Not anymore, though, Tim.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll pick that up with somebody from finance. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, lovely. Anybody else with any queries around the minutes? I think we might have got a hand up there, Tim.
All hands are down.
No, all hands are down. Brilliant. So we can accept they're an accurate reflection of the minutes. Thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to item 6, notices of concern and licence deficit agreements. Melanie, I don't think there are any, but would you like to make any contribution?
No, it's just a standing item paper, like you're saying, that no new notices of concern on licence deficits from us this time. Obviously, we continue to work with those schools who do have those agreements in place.
Thank you, Melanie. Lovely. Okay, so moving on to item 7, the Primary Behaviour Support Services financial year. I think this is one of yours, Leslie, or it's going to be Kate Plant.
Yeah, Kate's with us as well. Apologies for no calendar because it's just a black mass when I put it on. I don't know what's happened today for me, so sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, so this is a report you see every year, in particularly asking Schools Forum, our maintained schools, to agree the continuation of the dedelegation funding for next financial year. But it was quite a detailed report from Entrust this year, giving you quite a detailed update around how they're supporting our schools from the recommendations they made last year. So it's giving you updates for each of those recommendations and some case studies and some three further recommendations that they want to bring in from next April. They aim to attend every hub that we've got under our recommendation paragraph 13, recommendation 4, that they agreed to do this time last year, and they try to get every hub once a term. The survey that they send out to schools that they actually now do at the end of each involvement with the school gets 100% of respondents rate their service very good. They have actually been developing quite a lot of training for schools, which is actually free of charge to all schools. So our academies even can benefit from some of that. But you've got quite a, page paragraphs 19 onwards, you've got quite a lot of case study information if you've had an opportunity to read it. But what's key is the recommendations that they give for next financial year, where they're actually suggesting 3 new further developments of the service around training to schools, expanding the rollout to behaviour audits. This was something they brought in just last year. They aim to do about 5 or 6 this half term, and that's proved really positive with our maintained primaries who have undertaken that audit. And then they're going to start delivering behaviour clinics face-to-face and virtually under their recommendation 3. So the ask of Forum here is that continuation of funds to be de-delegated for the next financial year, please.
Thank you, Leslie. Before we take that vote, are there any questions or any comments from the floor on any of that report, which I thought was really comprehensive? Kate, would you like to say anything? I know Leslie's taken the limelight there for you.
I don't think there's a huge amount to add. Obviously, the feedback that we get from the schools that we work with is very positive, and we're also constantly trying to evolve our delivery to meet schools' needs. So hence, as Leslie discussed, the whole school behaviour audits, where we do in-depth analysis for the school in terms of areas to move forward, and also the clinics, just to sort of explain a little bit more about theirs. Again, that's trying to reach as many staff as possible, so a member of the team will go into school and meet with as many staff as required, so that we can talk about individual casework that's causing concern. Judy.
Judy?
Yes, thank you. A couple of things. It's really good to know that the behaviour support service is well recognised by the schools. That's really great. I just wonder whether the work that they are now engaged in addition with the Afghan evacuees, is causing any particular blockages in the work that they would be doing with schools.
That's being undertaken primarily by the MIAS team, which I think we're coming on to discuss Judy, but no, you know, we are meeting the challenges of supporting those students as well as obviously delivering the SDA.
And just to add to that, Judy, you'll probably see on paragraph 4, it shows that there obviously are less maintained primary schools within Staffordshire, but the number of referrals and children that the services supported has actually increased over this last year. So they're still being able to manage with the demand that they're getting. And
yes, I'm aware that the demand is still there, Leslie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Vicky, I think your hand is up. You might be on mute, Vicky.
Yeah, I was trying to come off mute and also put my camera on. I was just wondering whether it was possible, and I've noted this for each of the items that we're going to discuss today, whether it's possible to know what the dedelegation figure was for 21-22. And I have looked back through previous schools forum papers, but I couldn't find it, especially given the additional recommendations of work that the service are looking to cover. I just thought it would be helpful to know what the delegation figure was for last year. I don't know if we will have that information now, and as I say, I have had a look. But
Will, could you tackle that one for us?
Yes, the de-delegations for all of them actually have stayed the same. So it was the same figure as last year.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else with any questions before we take on the delegation? No. So as I understand it, this is a vote which is eligible only for the maintained primary. Mandy, have I got that right?
Yes, you have.
Lovely. So to try and make this process as efficient as possible, is there anybody who is against the proposal? Any hands up against? No. And is there any hands up for those who might want to abstain? Okay, so that seems a unanimous decision around that. Is everybody happy with that decision? Lovely, thank you, Leslie and Kate. So moving on to item 8, the MIAS. Leslie, I think you're up again.
Yeah, so it's the same question again. This is a report you see annually, predominantly written by Kate from Trust. So again, asking for that vote from our maintained schools for continuing de-delegation of it. The service, again, have given you quite a substantial report on what they've been delivering. And you'll see that even with the restrictions on travel during the last academic year, they supported a similar number of pupils throughout the year, and even with less schools being maintained in that period too. So over on the page you have got the recommendations they provided last year, the 4 recommendations, and they've given you an update on how things are progressing with those. I have to say they've worked very flexibly with us, certainly around the EMAG schools and supporting us with that, and the Afghan resettlements and how they're going to support those young people. So there are 5 new areas that they would like to consider for recommendation over next financial year that are detailed on paragraph 20 onwards. In particular, recommendation 5. Providing that Afghan resettlement programme, you can see there, and starting to provide a support helpline. We already had approved a recommendation a previous year ago about delivering a primary behaviour support helpline, 1 session per week, which is now expanded to 2, and they're going to start providing that MIAS one for our schools as well. And that's it. Any questions?
Again, Kate, would you like to add anything into what Leslie's just said?
Thank you. I think, you know, again, hopefully all the information is contained within the report, but just to sort of expand on the helpline, obviously we've shown that that's been really well used by schools, so we felt that was a natural progression to add that to the MIAS delivery. moving forward.
Thank you, Kate. Steve?
Yes, I think it's semantics, but it's actually very important. I think the final recommendation refers to Afghan refugees, and Judy, quite when she raised the question on the last item, referred to them as evacuees, and there is a very important and significant difference, and I think we're talking about evacuees, not refugees, and could that be borne in mind and reflected in future documents?
Yes, thank you, Steve. Yes, absolutely correct.
Okay, Julie, I think your hand's up unless it's legacy.
No, it's item 27 on your notes, please. And I'm obviously representing academies here today, but Jane Rutherford's absent. So are you happy for me to contribute in her role?
Yes, it's a contribution.
Yeah, just a request from head teachers that wherever possible, face-to-face meetings take place rather than virtual, because I think there's a desire to, where it's safe, to return to face-to-face. I know sometimes for some people it's more efficient to do it virtually. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Okay, same format then. Before we go to the vote around delegation, are there any other questions or any other comments from the floor? Okay, Julie, sorry, your hand's still up. I don't know whether it is a legacy this time. Okay.
I do have an error that I've just spotted. I have to apologise. On paragraph 1, it does say maintained primary schools. It should say maintained schools. So apology about that. I've just spotted it. Okay, so before we go to the vote, I just want to make sure we've got the right people voting. So, Mandy, is this for maintained primary and secondary, or purely for maintained primary? It's maintained schools. Maintained schools. Yeah. Okay, so I propose. Please raise your hands if you are who is going to abstain from a decision. It's carried. Thank you. Central expenditure and education functions.
For the dedelegation, central expenditure and education dedelegation authority to deliver services on your behalf. Is some inflation rises. The only actual block to the to Staffordshire from local government affected. Any surplus in there will be asking to repay SG ban funds has been allocated. The 5 million of early years funding to be retained centrally, and a provision from all maintained schools to fund education options. Quite a few. One is for dedelegation, to get dedelegation only. Need approval from the schools forum. It is for recommendation 4 is for schools forum to approve funding to be set to school forum members from maintained schools only approve of a 50. Start with the delegation first. So for table below, that's the same as last year with the same costs. The behavioural support services and items agenda gets school forum approval on those.
Okay. I'll vote on this is all of the maintained schools, both primary and secondary. To make any comments or ask any questions beforehand. Philip?
I had a question on item 4. Are we not paid yet?
Will could.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Cancel that.
No problem. Is there anybody against the proposal? No. Have we got anybody who's abstaining? Well,
thank you. It is a block allocation to the schools. So the central school services sent and the ongoing functions. The historical commitment, the prudential borrowing, so repaying some historical 900 under this action have to get the school forum approved for budget. Difference between the allocation in, which is 1.6 million, so we just need to get approval from the school forum, funding 50k for the SEN transport budget.
Thank you. And the right people.
Schools forum.
Okay, good job to get. So that's everybody. So record. Okay, so item 2 is carried. Thank you, Will.
3, index 2. This is remaining element from school there that we're asking to be approved. We don't have the final, if there's any within the ongoing services block, we'll be asking that to on appendix 2.
Steve? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
2%, other than the total asset management, 50 gone up so much. And the second question, we've got fund and the total of 3.5 and 3.9, 1,000. That seems to be a big variance.
This question is between how we profile it between all schools. If it's more schools academize, more costs go into this, where you'll see there's a corresponding figure in Appendix 3. You will maintain everything else. It's just a general inflation increase. The difference between the ESG balances and as part of getting
explanation, Steve.
Thank you.
Any other?
Yeah, just to check that's my own understanding. So as academies, by that, William.
So it's kind of a strategic on for academies too, and it's the cost of and we how schools or academies effectively. So more goes into academies this block funded by this, but the overall cost, you'll see Appendix 3 the amount goes down, and Appendix 2 it goes up.
That's what it was.
Any further questions before we take them? And I. Okay. Is there anybody who is against the proposal? Okay, come back. Steve, just can you confirm that there's a vote? Sorry, yeah. Okay, so that is that. Will I can.
Our estimate on growth, I think it will receive a $1 million in December. We're anticipating of and 600,000 against our we're asking for approval from the Schools Forum to for those purposes.
Okay, thank you, Will. Steve.
Draft 24. It refers to middle super output. Anyone what a middle super output area is, I've no idea.
Although I think the honest answer is I don't really know. It's reduced. Of people, geographical area.
In fairness, I think Will's it's generally, if I remember rightly, about all, but it just depends. If you look at any of the figures on S web site, they use this this criteria.
The lowest output area as well, Steve.
Proposal then, please, for this one.
Yes, it's 2 minutes to needs because we won't know it until December. In class budget and any unders will be contributed to.
Who against the proposal, please put your hand up. Okay, so that one is Phil.
To central early years expenditure, so you can ask for 5 block. The earliest behalf, asking for 1. The contract we have for trust is £1 million. It makes a fee for balance. Sorry, business support and market development. So we're asking for fee.
Yes, thanks, Rich. We to pass. You know, we appreciate that you know that it's not much different from last year, but we don't know. We have no call for a lot of nurseries, especially smaller nurseries in an area. So I guess we've got 2 questions. One is, when are we going extremely important for budgeting purposes as we approach next April? We've got a 6.6% wage national, 1.25 on the NI. That's likely to take down to 7%. You're going to get just over 5%, but we need to know that. Can we, like we had, I think, at the end of 2019,
Okay, thank you, Philip. Do you want to answer the first part of that question?
Entail the allocation to Staffordshire. It's some we do a process of modelling, and we actually get on what we're going to set for rates.
Thank you. And on the second part around the working.
The last session we had in joint working was January 2020 from you in some form. Then yeah, we'll take that forward.
Okay.
Come back on that. You know, we spoke with Anthony, and it's going to be a very tight situation. That's all.
Okay. Well, so we got. Okay, I was just going to ask a question myself. That's it. Well, that working group existed in its previous life. Is that something?
He's got his hand up. So
okay.
Cheers, Philip, for that good session as well. I think I'll comment back in arms is that we went through it wasn't really using another way. There's a lot of decisions to look at about things like the of any kind of deprivation rates, things like that. But just a reaction that as the at the time, see, that was a couple of years ago now. Just a reminder that last year set the rate and the rates where the whole sector was struggling at the time. The highs percent we didn't put anything in there, so the room for manoeuvre is now highs. I think again we'd probably look to pass, if not all, to again certainly we to do another session again because I think it was helpful. Any good it's to all clear and refresh. Just a matter of managing expectation of what that will, you know, how mean to the.
Yeah. Can I come?
Let's go to the.
You look back. It's all right. What? Minute. Thanks.
Yeah,
I'd like to.
Okay, thanks for that, Philip. To the units you can get, put that on the works programme or not. Okay, that's great. Any other comments? Oh, okay. So just to ensure this is a membership person, yeah. Is there anybody against the proposal? Okay, thank you. That's carried.
All the final recommendation is for the education function to maintain. This is, and we're just looking for those to be approved. The over last year, and we're just looking for reduction management referred to earlier. You see it's gone from 350 to 280. There weren't as many instances coming through in previous years.
Sorry, where I was going to. I'm quite with that.
You're clairvoyant that or comments from members. Okay. Okay, so that is carried.
Very much.
Is that which moves us on to you're back.
Okay, this is the block at the Schools Forum, and given the ongoing pressures in this area through the paper, but summarised, the paper outlines the latest focus overspending is blocking overspending. That's now changed from the forecast last of a in the numbers to change my forecast at this time, but we need to wait till to see what affects the position at the end of September, end of Q2, and those yet. Increased government funding this year, which I've already gone through in previous supporting staff share, and just being able to close the gap. In fact, support number of EACPs now exceeding 6,000, 70 on time last year. So it's difficult funding to. I think that's been last year's numbers a little bit understated from what they could have been. So I'll take and the government of at least acknowledged the undering in this area, and I can do it. To lobby more government funding, because I don't think this gap is going to be balanced alone. Outline the decline of the DSG reserve, and now in deficit by pounds drawn with by the end of the current financial year and the latest. I can see it being left unaddressed, and despite an increase in funding next spend, increase exponentially over the next few years. It's no exaggeration, single large education services itself that we currently face. Especially in debt. To me, as far as possible, the overspending in this area, I don't think we'll get to some wait for the to stump up the additional funding request. The case in any of ring fence there and couldn't afford to, even if it were permitted. Transformation is unlikely to deliver any significant changes several years yet. And the funding switch year from the schools block, as permitted by the DfE guidance, about the fact the impact that will have on our schools. But I think it personally, as required by statute, the council must undertake a consultation with our proposal for your consideration and schools forum in your deliberations. Understand the pressures though admitting that was on a very low response rate of 10%. So it was around, was less than 5%. So the response came up a lot. The financial difficulties that are faced by our school. In my personal and approve the transfer. Obviously, happy to questions.
Yeah, thanks. Twice, I think. Twice before. And on both those refused to approve the transfer for that. Members of the Schools Forum, who represent a wide variety of authorities, high needs were grossly underfunded. They needs, but not at the expense of schools. Desperately strapped for cash. They made all the the paving, and there is absolutely no way that they can cut corners without when this came up before, it was in the on the understanding that end of the matter, because a local authority can go direct to the Secretary of State. Secretary of State didn't approve the transfer, but members of school in the past didn't think it was right, having agreed to a transfer of, I think it was about 2 block. And the only thing, in my view, there's probably only significant is that there is a huge whammy waiting for schools' budgets just for the new fund. Most schools are signed up to through the local authority. That agreement runs out at the end of March, and is possibly go up 7-fold, which big school could be an extra change since the previous occasions when we discussed this. We might see be approving out of this pause. going to would be. So that's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Just again. It might be part of your penultimate paragraph, but for you to, when you rewrite the letter.
What would you like me to re-emphasise? Sorry.
I need.
And do that. I thought it was in there, but I can make it clear if you feel there's still. I don't mind that. Yeah.
You may have done. But
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So you've taken a vote on, you've requested all schools to be open.
That's the report, appendix 3, the report from the school.
Could you just, I'll find it, sorry, I'll read it out to everyone.
What do you mean?
So a bit of crossover there.
I'll share my screen if you want that.
So Anthony's kind of said that there was a number of responses was 39. That's asking for due 3 for 33 against, and that is 50.
Okay, so looking at those numbers, there seems to be a very clear, Anthony, that you're representing it. But I just want to teachers to fund a deficit, not to moving forward. The thing is, at the moment, by increased needs of children, mental health needs and COVID. Is very difficult, and I'd say that's one of the reasons why against it. Does that make sense, Anthony?
Yes, I'm sharing my screen. 63 strongly against from the, and I put their schools as aren't necessarily against the transfer, but they are. But given the circumstances, find it difficult to support. Say
before we move forward, it is that section of the report important because teachers to vote a lot better than your original back, Tim, which I think was very low originally. Some response.
Kevin?
Hi, just a couple of things on this. First of all, to sort of put it in the past, it's not because that the money need to be done. The FE authority to make a direct request, it highlighting it far more quietly and I think making that point is important. The other thing was that in the report, update on placement of people EHCs. A question in the second paragraph, it talks about 29% of young EHC, and that's notably below the 9% of young people with EH taught in special schools to 35 point maths. I'm a bit struggling with it. Seems to me mainstream schools, but there is a larger than 10% in where those percent children was one question. I might have misread it. Please feel for is that when I read that, it's almost like when over as being comes over being we've got too many children in specials and we need to have more in main. Maybe I'm just getting and I'm not sure that that's correct. But I wouldn't mind.
Sorry, as the independent sector, because obviously we've got specials and the mainstreams there. As you know, as the independence into specials and specials into main, it's probably
so schools. It means Staffordshire schools, yes. Not special schools, because obviously yes. The independent are special. Right. Okay. So essentially, then we're roughly 10% less in schools, which % more places in schools than most areas as well. Is that right? Thank you. That was fine.
And you're right, it's not necessarily a negative. It's a classic situation with the number of specials we've got. You'd expect schools.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a negative. I do agree, but unfortunately, the number of costs not to have vacancy at specials, but that profile of where with the transformation program is going to take a while. Meanwhile, there's a big CV that's up a huge overdraft effectively. If you tell and it's organisation only hold £30 million of fund resources back to deal eventualities. Right now, I can see it's 40 million overdrawn in 4 years. So we have to take responsibility and responsible course of action on.
I don't have to take responsibility. I think we know.
I really that's like.
Mark Sutton.
Just around special education needs. I sit on the association. It is one of our priorities, particularly in respect of lobby view into education needs and disability have made considerable representation to government, and we're hoping that the Secretary reported on as soon as it's possible, just for information.
Thanks.
Thank you. I understand teachers in the main, and we represent the body of teachers that feed, and so to who we represent. present.
Thank you, Stephen.
And again, comments that people made, and again, I understand college will, I guess, at some point, we have to tackle the fact that we could go back to the Secretary of State to say, look, Staffordshire head, the size of the issue, and have some of that composition, but recognise the impact that that has on individuals and make that request. And again, just being clear that depending on making that request to the Secretary of State, hence why we would be doing this wrong. Okay,
thank you, Tim. Judy?
All the paragraph in your letter to the Secretary of State.
Yeah. Yes. Have we any more comments from the question?
No, I think I present myself as well.
The consultation and the results from the consultation do this the opposite way round. So from the school block, the high needs block, you put your hand. Have we already? Oh. I do not remember. No. Have we had any? This motion is carried. Thank you, Anthony.
Yes.
We will be taking it forward. Obviously, we responses. But this the process that we will undertake the 5% switch,
and obviously related to Staffordshire. This is common based. I know that you in your role, but that's the case.
Yet. And I had a sleep note.
No. Thank you. Education. Banding all get up to date. Leslie?
Yes. Hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at this report. This was giving you and the as a consultation to all education providers. It went out through the bag, the staff education, health and care plans who did go to school, and colleges out of Staffordshire view of how the banding all works in terms of the needs, a 10% number of children through the need profile, just under 12. We've been implementing it, and the key decisions we've made along the way project wider education providers and our parents and carers. And so the total with some sub-questions, unfortunately the response is very low. That consultation, so that's something like 3.5% response. So a lot of women and within the project plan there is an agreement to share the outcome with all to give you a great update in terms of what that consultation response looks like. Just a general update, we have held another couple of forums understand the wider parents understand what the tool will mean to them and then on improving the wording on the local offer to help parents sit in for us and key workers and are updating the trainings to feel before and what we used. We did the pilot group. We'll see in the document a delay to go live date for them for June next year, but plan the go live date in February as originally planned.
Okay, any questions, Lee? Kevin?
You're talking to a colleague who's in head in special schools and talking about the difficult being able to was actually not really knowing what will impact to the consultation. So I suppose she applied to in terms of quickly. I don't think anyone. I can't imagine anyone has said that this isn't a good idea. Yeah, we think it's a great idea, not knowing whether it's going to mean £50,000 your budget or thousands on your budget.
Yeah, it is, and that's why we're going with a phased implementation approach and the big, very gradual basis. It will be for a new education health that are finding need following annual review where the plan is changed. The process will need to profile will be shared with carers and education providers at that draft. So school banding tools being responded to. But the key thing is it's only responded answered. It is a significant need around a particular area if it doesn't detail plan. So going to have moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's one of the ones where that's why there's
and some of the question being asked. I mean, I personally felt like I'd answered that in the consent document, but we launched consultation through a live event with an webinar for that. Perhaps I should have done that towards the end of the consultation period when we had a chance to comment.
How do you?
No.
Okay.
Hi, yeah, so a quick question to Leslie. From what Kevin possibly this will mean to the total budget over the next 2 the issue, isn't it? So
we wouldn't model this to cost saving exercise. It was about ensuring how the allocating was feasible, and here is that of 600 pilot children, we have looked at them through ring fence that and modeled that in the budget based on the banding. So the very stream, we've ensured that stays within the overall pie budget, if I'm explaining. But we wouldn't be able to undertake it across wider because the decision we currently and equitable. So I can't model something based on I can't model that was to the band of a H3 moving forward. They could sit anywhere on model dependent.
Were there any outstanding that you
that we came across, investigated further, and thought about the sector perhaps not covered in the funding tool, and therefore we would have override that we additional also highlighted funding issues around children's needs in special school head teachers, representatives, our health colleagues to have conversations about how currently being met through education, high needs budget necessarily.
I can only wish you luck with that one. I can't see them stumping up with a big book, can you?
Say it's making some inroads at last. So, yeah.
Good. Okay.
Thanks.
I just put my hand up. I'm not going to give Kevin and Andrew have spoken around is that what had around is the body. It's very difficult to model through a whole tool to see what that. But we know it's for funding. There's going to be winners and there's going to be losers, and that happened because matrix schools, the SEN schools, the PMLD schools, it does get. You know, we'll need to understand that there will be a minimum guarantee. This is, you know, to see exactly what the results of this is going to be. But there will be winners and losers. Initially, when to the local make the point that children with real complex needs were struggling. Those children that need high resources in terms of staffing ratios, and AIDS children were struggling to maintain positive budgets, where the generic expanding to address to particular populations, and it's for mainstream difficult. Those children with quite severe behavioural issues, not the ones with learning issues. As it's through, this might be, but there will
might be the Otherwise, we probably got some additional funding that wasn't fair and historically. Moving to fair, equitable, and consistent method of allocating our funding, allocating funds happened past.
And you'll be disappointed if I didn't get it. It's applied to independent schools, but there you go. You've been disappointed if I haven't got that one in.
Give to child that's at the top level of the band. We're trying to bring it in line with in funding. Top level band, we're proposing 45k efficient plan replacement.
Okay.
And children currently funded at that rate.
Could I make that commenting again, Leslie made right at the very beginning, the children, the needs of the children are recorded accurately, the Asian Health and Care Plan, acts the needs of the church. For where those plans are, as I say, it just needs special school or budgets that go into the school is about funding for and we can't lose sight of that.
Lovely to that. On to the
before you do work, can I just do the with Steve raised right at the very beginning, colleagues may have seen patient provide a school agreement monitoring and brokering grant in local schools. They're consulting now around sure whether the expectation they're going to put the funding into schools in that context. But what they're asking for, what they're seeking, is to fund them through top pricing the whole sector. Yes, we will be responding to get that response to that. So, you know,
Tim. Any comments on what Tim has just said?
Given what we've heard in different content of the meeting about the response to still worth highlighting to schools that it is out.
Steve, when you challenge the myths.
Graham Bell.
Oh, right. AFI Graham Bell.
Isn't it? That discussion I have with finance to look at the way charge, see if AFI issue. It's a particular challenge in the country, but one offline.
Yeah, yeah. Just it was a meeting. They asked me to bring it today.
Thank you, Julie. Okay. in the works programme that people to question, to challenge? Any other items? Okay, well, that's you meeting, return their time. Seems that we're not going to be bumping at a very dear. Thanks, everybody.